but it get bored. It's not when there's no challenge. It's just like the day goes very long. That's why I kind of like I like working in Datascrip because I never get bored. In my previous companies, after a while you get bored of the routine stuff that you're doing, and that's why in Datascrip it's never boring. That's why I like it over here. When I first joined the company, I was interviewed by the owner, Pak Jo Kamdani, and he asked me like, how do I know that you're gonna stay a long time with us? Because you've been jumping around, in other companies. And I told him, I still remember what I told him is that if you can keep me if you can keep me not necessarily entertained, but engaged, challenged, a lot of things going on, then I'll stay. And it's proven that that's the case. So that's why I'm happily take on a lot of projects, which is sometimes it's very unrelated, but it's still fun. And especially nowadays we see a lot of startups, and we also take a look into some of those, and we see whether those those startups can give value or perhaps synergize with Datascrip operations and things like that. So it's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And I think definitely when you look at kind of the young millennials, right? Has that changed over the years? Like in terms of before, what I heard is that when the culture was, I guess the previous generation before us, it was more on like you kind of stay where you are, you don't really move around. But is it more adaptable this way? And I guess like for you as well, Ray, like we're in the workforce for the past few years now. Like how do you see that kind of being challenged and boredom in terms of work, and how does that relate to you?
Yeah. So this is actually interesting to hear something from millennial side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What do you think, Ray?
Sure. I think nowadays, I think at least for millennials like myself, right, that now that you have so many different options, like there's startups, or consulting companies, investment banking, and I think that nature of millennials itself, you get bored very easily, right? You want something new. And I think given the nature of millennials nowadays and the options that are available in the market, it just gives you that option to just try many different things and helps you explore, right? Like, hey, explore what you're passionate about. I think there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like trying out different things, figuring out what you want, and then hopefully one day achieving something like Berry has achieved, like something that gives him contentment, right? Staying somewhere where he found his passion there, it challenges him and gives him enjoyment. I think
that's interesting insight, because I'm more into Gen X and millennials. I'm in somewhere in between. So when you compare me with Gen X, I'm more easily bored. I'm more into value driven kind of stuff. Those touchy feely millennials things. But the way I see it is that, well, I probably in a way I did this, but I see it more prevalent among millennials. Is that after you graduate, you don't go directly to work. Maybe you travel around the world. Maybe you try on new things. You work in several companies as a part-time, maybe, and work in other countries. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think, yeah, but you just it's okay to try on new things, but you gotta know what you're looking for. That's basically the thing. You don't want to end up like 35 or 40, still looking around, still traveling all around the world without purpose, or without don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Basically.
Definitely. I think there's like that. I mean, there's kind of a middle ground right between the whole thing, which is like, on one hand, maybe it's not the best idea to maybe stay in the first job for the next 10 years or so, because you also want to see what else is going on. I mean, that could be one option. I mean, but on the other hand, you also don't want to be switching jobs every single year for the next 10 years. And so, yeah, go ahead.
But I have a good, but that's a good insight though, because some of my friends actually stayed in a job for like, in the first job, like for so many years. there's nothing wrong with that too.
Yeah.
Because for example, like some of the top level executive, even like in Indonesia, they started like, for example, in big companies, they started from management trainee all the way up until they become CEO. But that's just not my style. Like I said, I'm easily bored. I want to try new things. So I'm somewhere in between Gen X and millennials. So it works with someone else, but it may not work for you or for me, for example.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's always a spectrum in things, right?
True.
But when it comes to like, let's say like, we're always talking about kind of getting a little bit bored. Are we talking about like, let's say the mission? Are we talking about the culture? Because like, for example, like if we're ever talking about, going to something we're very passionate about, but maybe the culture out there, the work is more repetitive, but again, we're working towards the bigger vision of the future. Which one would you, I guess for you personally, and for you too, like Ray, do you have any preference on what you feel is going to be actually more prevalent in that kind of environment?
Yeah, for me, in the beginning, you don't really, probably that's what differentiates between Gen X and millennials. Millennials and Gen Z now, they know their values, and they know what they're looking in a way, like they know what they're searching for, whether that is the ultimate goal that they're searching or it's just a phase, we don't know. But the thing is, with, at least for me, when I first working in a company, I don't really know what to look for at the time, especially after when I graduate. It was 97, December 97. And so I was looking for work at early 98, and at the time it was like economic crisis, at the height of economic crisis. So at the time I wasn't looking for like company with values or anything. I was just looking for a job, basically. So and even after that, I don't really know what I was looking for until probably until before I joined Datascrip. I was basically actively looking for a company with the same value. Then I found Datascrip. It turns out to be a good choice. Yeah. What do you think, Ray?
Yeah, it seems like, again, like what you mentioned, there's no one solution for all, right? Like every individual is different, and it depends with the timing as well, right? Maybe like Pa Berry mentioned, like in the start, it was a recession, he didn't know what to do, right? He just wanted the job. Maybe for every individual, it just depends, right? Like what is it that you really want? Do I want a company that is mission driven? Do I want a certain industry? Hey, if you actually don't know what you want, like maybe just narrow it down, right? Oh, this is what I want. I want to go in an environment where I can learn as much as I can. So find that company where you can learn as much as you can and use that time to explore, right? Figure out like, oh, actually, I think I'm interested more in education. Then move. Feel free to make that jump and try it out and test it and test your hypothesis and figure out what actually is it that you want in life, right? And I think Pa Berry here was fortunate enough to be able to like achieve that already.
Yeah, hopefully. and yeah, the thing is, sometimes you don't, what you think you know, you don't necessarily know to be true, yeah? So that's why I told you guys, while you're young, try and experiment and try out hypotheses like, oh, I think I want to work in a big company, but not necessarily big company is the one you're looking for. Maybe it's the company culture. Maybe it's the challenge. Although sometimes people say it's like, yeah, no, it's a BS. You're looking for a challenge, but seriously, I mean, working in I've been in a company where I've set everything up. I was me and my team are performing very well. We're achieving target day in, day out, but it get bored. It's not when there's no challenge. It's just like the day goes very long. So it's sometimes it's fun to have a good amount of challenge and stress in your life.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I think to add to both your points, I think at the end of the day as well, like you said, every person kind of has a different sort of motivation, right?
Yeah.
And then so what is it that drives them? I think that's the first thing that they need to figure out. Exactly. Is it going to be more towards mission? Is it the company culture? And of course, it's all going to be a list of many different types of priorities. It could be a mixture of things. But I think also another thing to keep in mind is that we're at different points in our life, and therefore you're not going to figure out everything right now. You know, even when you get older, you might not figure everything at that point in time. It's like you kind of have to go according to what you believe you have to do now, right? And so that's why, you know, finding jobs and commitment. I mean, a big part of it is also trial and error. You go to a certain company or you try a certain thing, you might not necessarily enjoy it, then you have to try something else. But I think the good thing about kind of the world that we live in now is that there's opportunities which we can take without committing to it full time as well. Because you can see that there's different people actually doing different types of jobs, or even like, you know, one full-time job and then a couple of different projects in the side as well. So I think that's also something that's good for people to know. You know, you don't have to just commit to one thing. There can be a lot of different things that you can do, but of course, there has to be that main income stream that can get you going through life.
But
right?
but the key is to try out and learn from the experience.
Right.
Sometimes that's what I see missing from a lot of people. And for example, they work in a company, it doesn't work out, but they don't learn anything about why it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Is it the company? Is it the culture? Is it the work-life balance, for example? Is it the money? Or is it the responsibilities? Is it the boss? You know, so it's okay to try out new things, but you gotta learn and use it for your basically ammunition for your next endeavor.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that the reflection is the key, right, to everything.
True.
It's like, I think when it comes down to anything that you're doing, it's really all about knowing yourself.